Welcome back to another episode of the Blues Box. This time we thought we'd do something a little bit different than our usual sort of style guides and playing along guides. I remember going back to my early days of first starting the guitar and wondering why I wasn't great from the word go. So really, I think it's a funny one, but people say, why is guitar so hard? And I think it's just hard to get started because you're making the sound with the guitar, not like a...
And it's quite uncomfortable.
It is, yeah, it absolutely, definitely is.
Hurts your fingers.
It does. Even when you've played for a while, you stop for a few weeks and you're back again, aren't you, with your fingers hurting? Or if you cut the top of your finger with a saw, that also doesn't help.
Hence why I don't use saws, Jeff.
So you're starting out, you're playing guitar, you've started to appreciate there's more to learning guitar than you thought there might have been. So we just thought we'd go through a whole bunch of tips just to make life a little bit easier. And make your progress a little bit quicker, hopefully, as well. So, all right, so let's get into it. I hope you enjoyed part one of these tips for beginners, and we'll have a part two as well in a few weeks' time. So, tip one, Steve. So, do you know what? This is quite an important one to me, really, is tune your guitar. Please, tune your guitar.
Please tune your guitar.
Do you know it benefits yourself? It benefits anybody who happens to be listening. But it makes it sound straight away better. And you feel like this is such an obvious one, isn't it?
It is an obvious one, but you will be amazed how often when I get a new student that they haven't been bought a tuner.
No, I agree, absolutely, yeah.
And my worst one, my bugbear is when my students tune, they go, oh, that'll do. And I say, no, that won't do. Get your guitar and tune, please. Because I've got to listen to it.
I agree. Do you know, and the thing is, everybody's got access to a mobile phone. There's a whole bunch of free apps on there for tuning up. I mean, I use a phone one when I'm, around and about. I use the one on the pedal board for live because, it just kills off, obviously, the sound as you're going forward. But when you're starting out, just get something on the phone, get an app on there, and that'll instantly make you feel like you're getting somewhere, I think, quicker.
Yeah, and when you look for a tuner, you obviously don't need an all-singing dancing, but do try and find a tuner that's called a chromatic tuner.
Yeah, good point.
Nothing drives me more mad than when you can't tune a string to E to D, and it won't let you because it's not chromatic.
And the price difference is minimal these days on tuners. You can get clip-on ones, a stick on the headstock as well. There's all sorts.
Often on the clip-on ones, I had somebody the other day and I said, is it chromatic? And they said no. If you press the button at the bottom, it turns it to chromatic. So you just look for a little C to come up on the screen.
There we are. Okay, and if you don't know what chromatic is, get on Google now and look that up.
Just means you can tune it to anything you want rather than standard tuning.
Absolutely brilliant, yeah. Fantastic. All right, so that's tip one.
Tune your guitar.
Tune your guitar. Tip two, practice with a metronome.
Oh, yes.
Now, do you know what? It sounds really old school and it sounds terribly boring when you first say it, but do you know, it's a fundamental for me is playing in time.
Have you had experience of somebody who couldn't play in time, Jeff?
It's funny you should say that, Steve, because back in the day...
In the dark ages.
Yeah, when we were very young, I remember the first time that you came to play with a drummer.
It's mentally scarred me.
I bet it has, actually. And what did the drummer say to you?
Steve, go and practice with a metronome.
Yeah, go and practice with a metronome. Because there was the drummer laying down a nice beat, or he was in the pocket, as they say, the drummers, don't they? And Steve was just going, fun one.
I was enjoying myself.
I'm not sure you were having a whale of a time.
Yeah.
In your own little world. But definitely. I think, do you know what? I really like that idea because rhythm is such a key part of playing. And I don't mean rhythm guitar, I just mean rhythm in itself, whether you're soloing or whatever it is. Rhythm is a huge chunk to leave out of the equation, really. Yeah,
start, obviously, because we're talking about beginners, start with your rhythm. It's quite hard to just play a solo in time with a metronome at first. But definitely, whether it's just chord changes, anything, just play it with a metronome. Obviously, play with a song. That's
instant metronome.
Very useful.
And that's how I started, because I started out with bass. I was bass when I was a lad, and I used to just put the record on and
it's more fun. Yeah. But at some point, you do want to just practice with that click.
Yeah. No, it is good. It is good. It just ties you, I mean, we'll come to it later, but, getting into a band, I think, is quite important. And to fit into a band, you have to have good rhythm, really.
Yeah. And I would say, I still say this to anybody that's trying to get to a really good level on the instrument. They tend to play things too fast, for one thing.
Okay.
You need to be able to play, if it's a very simple lick or complicated lick, play it perfectly in time, but very slowly.
Yeah.
And then when your fast version should sound identical,
Yep.
but faster. The timing should be the same.
You know, that's a fundamental one. I see people rushing too much to get up to speed.
Yeah.
You know, I've been guilty of that, so many times.
Yeah.
Just learn it slow and then turn the metronome up.
Yeah, bit by bit.
And go, bit by bit. I'm comfortable there, And you'll get there then. And I think it can be a little bit dull, that idea of, but to be honest, when you nail it and you get it, you're still pleased with yourself. So
I think particularly if you, obviously we're a blues show, but we're talking about any style of music, and particularly metal, young metal guitarists, obviously you want to get face-fryingly fast at some point.
Yeah.
So I'll say to them, okay, you can't play that speed now. If you move your metronome up 1 or 2 notches a week, put your metronome where it'll be in a year's time, and they do it, and they can obviously never play that fast.
Yeah.
So it is a slow process.
Yeah.
But if you take your time with it, it's well worth it.
It's quicker than not doing it, though.
Oh, 100%.
Do you know what I mean? So that's the important bit.
At some point, if you want to play that quick, you're going to have to do it.
You are.
So you may as well start now and be patient.
Brilliant.
Be very patient.
So practice with a metronome. Yeah. Okay. Tip 3. I do say to people, don't worry too much about gear when you're starting out. Don't worry too much about the guitar as long as the action's decent,
Yeah, that's
that kind of thing,
That's the big one is, unfortunately, unless you have a reasonable standard guitar, the strings are often half an inch off the neck.
Yeah,
very hard
they can
to play.
be. But I think for me, for tip 3, basically, is get a good sound, but don't worry about your gear. So use what you've got. Don't get bogged down by thinking you need the best of everything, and that's going to make you better, because it doesn't. I think you're right. It's it's get a tidy-ish sound. So listen to the sounds you hear coming out of play as you like, and start thinking about what type of guitar is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I've only got a little practice amp, but I can get a nice heavy gain for whatever I'm playing, or a middle gain like a crunch sound. I think listen to the sounds.
Yeah, listen to it. Obviously, the style of music that you're into. If you're into AC/DC, don't go and get a nylon string acoustic guitar. But at the same time, you don't have to spend a huge amount of money if you know what you're looking for.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, but I hate less expensive guitars that have got tremolos on.
Oh yeah, because
generally
it goes back to tuning again. Doesn't it?
So a great example would be a kind of bottom of the range Telecaster. Is a pretty no nonsense guitar. Yeah. Not a lot can go wrong with it.
I go along with that actually. Yeah, but to be honest, there's guitars out there now. There's like the Firefly range and all these brands that are just doing so well and giving you something that's playable straight away. Okay, it's not got the best pickup, it's not got the best sound, but don't worry about it. Work with what you've got, and don't get sucked into this idea that you have to buy stuff to get better. No. As you said, the only thing you really need is just a tidy enough action.
Yeah, that's
so it's not uncomfortable.
One. Yeah, I've played some very expensive guitars with a shocking action, and I'd rather have the cheaper one.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, the expensive one with a nice action is nice, and that's something you can always get fixed. Whatever. Yeah. If you get a guitar, don't think you have to settle for the action being like, you can get it done.
And if your amp's got a bit of reverb on it, put a little bit of reverb on, makes you sound nicer. Just get the best of what you've got, really. And if you've got a Strat, well, then play with the positions and the sounds you get. Work on that a little bit, and don't get sucked into, I've got to have that or I've got to have that. Just some basics will get you through.
So what was your first guitar?
My first guitar, apart from the bass guitar, my first bass guitar was actually a Marshall guitar. Ooh, they made instruments for a little bit, and it was a short scale SG.
Okay.
My first guitar was my dad's guitar. Mm-hmm. He had a Japanese Fender acoustic, and I watched him playing because they were in a band, they were country and western bands, and I learned the chords by watching him. And then he came home one day and he made me go to lessons instead. Yeah, so
made you go to lessons.
He made me go to classical guitar lessons, which wasn't what I wanted to learn, but actually was really valuable early on.
Made you very good at fingerstyle.
Well, maybe okay at fingerstyle. So here we are, very good. Not sure about that. All right, so yeah, don't worry too much about your gear. Okay, that comes later when you go nuts with pedal boards and stuff. All right, brilliant. Tip 4 then. So this is a big one, really, for me. Don't give up too soon.
So why did you?
Harsh. There's a learning curve with anything that you do, and I think so. You pick it up, you just want to get going, and guitar is quite tough.
Yeah, it is.
It is because you, as I said, going back to it, you've got to make the sound with your fingers, and that's so hard. You've got strings muted. You can't get a bar chord. Noises if you're on electric. Absolutely. I think it's an amazing instrument, but it's and it's a rewarding instrument to play.
It is.
As well.
I do think kind of slightly going back to gear. A lot of people give up because they've started on a guitar that is just really uncomfortable to play.
There is that.
So that is really important.
Yeah. But don't get too discouraged too early on. It's an amazing journey to go on. Just keep going. There's a thing. Have you heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect?
What do you think?
No.
No.
Okay, so it's where people who are less educated in a subject.
Oh, is that where we're going?
Yeah. That doesn't mean stupid people. Just people who are less educated in a subject, right?
Yeah, okay.
When they start learning it, they think, do you know what? I'm pretty good at this. And it happens to everybody. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are. It's not a measure of intelligence. It's experience in something. Right. So what you get is you get this amazing uplift of, wow, I can do this. This is great. And then you hit a point when you realise, actually, there's an awful lot I know now I don't know. And then you just go off a cliff.
The more you know, the more you realise you don't actually know that much.
And it is a dreadful feeling. Yeah. And it is like, oh, crumbs. It's like picking up a camera for the first time. You go out, you take a photo, you go, hey, I've got a photograph.
Yeah.
Or you've managed to put a Squarespace website together. It doesn't make you a web designer. It doesn't make you a photographer. No. So off the slope you go. Yeah. And then you start working at it. But what happens is you get discouraged at that point. So that's the point where you go, do you know what? I know I can do this. And then the slope goes back up again. Yeah. And it's actually like a nice little chart. But no matter how good you get, you never get back up to that first heady feeling of that first time.
Well, yeah, I think I don't know about you, but over the years, I've talk about like hitting a wall. You hit a wall. You have to. It's quite hard to go over that wall sometimes.
It is.
And sometimes, for me, certainly, you discover a guitar player that just makes you feel like a complete idiot. Yeah. Because they're so much better than you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that can either destroy you or hopefully inspire you.
Yeah. No, that's
it's
the same in everything, Steve. In my job that happens. You look at people who are amazing at it, and it can and I've been doing my job for 20 odd years, and you just it shakes you for a second. You think, wow, they're pretty good, but then you realise I can do this and I can do that and I can do this, and you start to feel better again. So
learn from them.
Yeah, absolutely. But that can be part of that, that feeling a bit blue when you've realised actually there's so much to learn. But keep going and you get back up again. Just keep going, keep working at it.
Try and enjoy the fact that you are hopefully going to play your chosen instrument, in this case guitar, for your entire life. Yeah. And it is at the risk of sounding too, it is a journey. Enjoy it. You are never going to be the best guitarist in the world, if there is such a thing.
Exactly.
So just enjoy it. Yeah. Keep trying to get better. Learn from people that are better than you, because there's always somebody that will humble you. Yeah. And just try and figure out what it is about them that inspires you. Yeah. And add it to your playing.
Take parts
Move
from it.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So don't get discouraged. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Tip 5. Okay.
So the start of tip 5 says practice, Jeff.
All right, okay. Yeah. Okay, now, hands up. Practice can be hard.
Yeah.
You know, I can find it boring, to be honest. I like to try and learn a song that I can use and just sing along to sometimes myself, you know, to entertain myself.
Yeah.
But one of the ones that I found really useful is to play over a drone note,
Okay. Yeah.
or chords. So, okay, you might need a looper pedal here, and this goes against you need some gear. Don't worry about gear. But actually, this can be quite good.
Very useful.
It is. So you either get a drone note going and then you're practicing your scales over a drone note, or you can lay down a few chords and then you can practice through the chords. And that just makes you feel, I don't know, that there's something about that. I'm now starting to play music.
Yeah.
There's loads of YouTube backing tracks out there.
Oh,
You can go out and find backing tracks on YouTube, you know, blues ones and a million other genres as well. But it really helps you, I think, discover the fretboard when you're doing your scales.
Yeah.
And get into the musicality of it as well.
Yeah, and obviously guitarists are notorious for getting stuck in places, and particularly one scale shape, which you would have either already discovered or will soon.
It's easy to fall back on, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
One thing I found really useful, my teacher very early, if I played a short phrase or lick in one scale, he said, right, now do that in the other four positions.
Okay, right.
And some of them are actually quite awkward to play the same thing in, but it means they suddenly mean a bit more to you.
Yeah.
Because you can do something musical with them.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I would say I've got from you over the years, is it is supposed to be musical. Sometimes I've certainly got bogged down over the years with the guitar itself and theory and things like that, but whatever you're learning should be musical. That's kind of the point.
That's the output at the end of it, is something you want to listen to, but also, I guess, someone else wants to listen to as well, you know? So it is about making music, isn't it? So this gets you going on that. Playing over drone note, playing over chords on a looper, or just back in. As I said, when I used to play bass, I used to just pop on an LP. I'd learn a couple of songs, show my age now, final, and just go for it, you know? And that made me enjoy it so much more.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, tip 6. Now this might seem like, whoa, but I say go for it.
Yeah.
I do. Once you've got some basics down, you know, get a band together, get some mates together, and just get on with it. Because you'd be surprised how quick you develop in that situation. Because I think all the flaws come out.
Definitely. Also, I think it is fun. Even when you're not very good, it's fun.
Yeah. When you're not arguing with each other.
Yeah, when you're not arguing with each other. But I've had a couple of people recently. One of my students in particular, Evan, who was kind of just noodling along. He was doing okay. But then suddenly he's joined a band with his mates and his interest has just gone through the roof. It's like it gives you more reason to practice.
It's passion for it as well, isn't it? And reason and deadlines.
Yeah.
You've got to get stuff done.
Yeah.
You know, so, and it gives you, as you said, it gives you a reason to do it. You know, I'm going to get this song done, we're going to get out and we're going to play it. And I think it's, for me as well, it teaches musicality, it teaches that rhythm thing that we were talking about earlier, about playing together, you know, as a unit, which is a lovely feeling. I've got to be honest, when it comes together, that is just one of the best feelings, full stop. But a lot of songs, it's minimal chord knowledge, you know, it's minimal structure. You know, a lot of songs are very simple, really. And get going, you know, just get out there and get going. Don't hold back, don't miss out as well by a fear of failure, I think.
No, I don't. I don't know about you, but I've learned a lot even over the years when I wasn't the level of musicians I was playing with, but they didn't dismiss me and say, go away. You learn a lot from musicians that are better than you. Still do now, to be honest with you. So obviously you want to be in a band with your mates that are a similar standard to you, but also every opportunity you get to play with another band or with other musicians,
take it
and do it.
Do it, go for it. I mean, you know, I've done that. It didn't work out well in some cases when I didn't know certain things, you know, but in other cases it worked out wonderfully, you know, and was really enjoyable. So,
it kind of makes you more determined as well when you sit in and you feel like you've missed out because you weren't quite the level you needed to be, then you go away, you get better.
Definitely, absolutely. So I think last tip for part 1, tip 7. Tip 7 is to think of the guitar as a tool to make music, not an end in itself. Now, I think it's fair to say we probably approached that differently when we were younger. I know you
definitely
loved guitar in and of itself.
Yeah. Guitar obsessed, whereas you've never really been guitar obsessed. Obsessed more.
More music for me, definitely. And guitar was a way to write music. It was a way of getting into music and enjoying music.
Jeff is the one, you go to band practice, the drummer is really annoyed because Jeff sat behind the drums playing his drums. And then he's got the bass, which is a great skill to be able to do all of those things. But it's always been about sounds and things for you, songwriting rather than just a guitar solo.
Absolutely. And, I've always enjoyed arrangement in a song, space for instruments to breathe and all that kind of stuff. But I think if you think of whatever instrument you're playing as a tool to make music and then engage with others, I think that's a much stronger way of getting into it. It doesn't mean you can't become obsessed with it.
No.
I think you can have a healthy obsession
and I think
of things,
to get to a pretty high level, you do need to have an element of obsession.
Definitely. Absolutely, definitely. But that can be an obsession with music as a whole. But exactly, I think you're right. If you want to be of a high standard, you've got to focus in on something unless you're Prince. And then you're just gifted.
Exactly.
As well as hard work. I mean, there's a huge amount of hard work in all that kind of stuff, But I've always enjoyed, like you say, and I've always enjoyed like getting my hands on other instruments as well and trying them out and see how they fit. And I think if you understand things better as well, then your music gets better. So.
Because you at the end of the day, you're in a band with other musicians who play a different instrument. You've got to try and at least make an effort to understand those instruments. And you've got to communicate with different musicians in a different way. You communicate with the drummer, obviously, different to how you communicate with a trumpet player or something like that. So
brilliant.
But it is whatever you're doing, whether it's a scale, chords, if it hasn't got a musical end to it, then why are you doing it?
Why are you doing it?
Yeah.
No, absolutely, I agree. It's like learning a language, isn't it? You've got no one to speak it to. It's pretty pointless.
Yeah.
So great. Well, that's part 1. Look out for part 2. We'll put a link in this description when part 2 comes out as well. I'm going to say as well, please give us a like. Get down there in the comment section. Tell us your tips for what made you start, what helped you along the way, any tips you've got for beginners, and maybe we can roll those into future ones. Hit that subscribe button as well and pop the notifications on and come back and see us again. Really appreciate that if you do. So brilliant. Take care. That was Beginners Part 1. Do some graphics there, or not. So take care.